Welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show, your voice for our connected world, with your host, Peggy Smedley.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Peggy Smedley Show. I'm your host, Peggy Smedley. I will be joined by 4 guests for this next segment, and they are here to discuss their National Science Foundation project that explores using virtual reality simulations to study the work and collaboration patterns of people with ADHD background on a construction site. They will share how the technology works and what value this brings to the construction industry. Please welcome Craig Yu, Associate Professor of Computer Science, College of Engineering and Computing at George Mason University. Brenda Bannon, Professor of Division of Learning Technologies, College of Education and Human Development at George Mason University. And Lu-Chun Yu, who's the third-year computer science PhD student at George Mason, as well as our own editor, Laura Black, who authored the book, Becoming Resilient Parents. Everyone, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you can all join me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Greg, I think I'm going to start, if we could, with you. Why don't you start by sharing a little bit about the National Science Foundation project and what you all have been working on?
Sure, my pleasure. So in this project, we explore using virtual reality simulations to study the work and collaboration patterns of people with an ADHD background, specifically on construction sites. We can capture data from virtual reality of how people react to different stimuli and how they collaborate with each other. And based on the findings, we can develop AI, robots, and emerging technologies to better engage people with ADHD backgrounds to engage with the construction industry. So this is a collaboration between George Mason University and also our collaborators at Purdue.
Brenda, I'm going to ask this question too, because I think right now there's a great need when we think about what's happening in construction. Can you actually explain a little bit more?
In construction, not many people know that the highest level of death rate behind truck drivers, that 1 in 5 of construction workers are involved in injuries or deaths on the job. Therefore, it really speaks to a need for enhanced job safety, enhanced worker situational awareness, and enhanced training and overall learning for these workers to keep them safe on the job.
We look at numbers, Brenda. Some of the numbers are up at as much as high as 23,000. Is that kind of an accurate number if we look at that to say the numbers are really significant?
Yes, they are. And it really is an unknown that construction becomes a place where it's a very complex environment, and you're typically working in teams, in tandem with other workers, future job sites, and actually some existing job sites. You are working with different types of technologies that are emerging. And so the more that we can understand about how that collaboration with other human beings, with technology, with artificial intelligence, the more we understand about that, the better we can train future construction workers and also learn about how they work together and collaborate.
Craig, if I think about this, can you share more detail about how really this technology works? Because as I had said to Brenda in the first question, we were saying why there's the need for this today. I think we need to really look at the technology and why this is so important.
Absolutely. So we use the state-of-the-art virtual reality technologies to develop the simulation. So more specifically, we created a virtual construction site where 2 users can simultaneously work on virtual construction tasks via the network. In addition to showing the visual simulations, the virtual reality system that we develop is capable of tracking the user's body metrics when they perform the tasks, such as their eye gaze, their hand poses, head poses, movements, etc. So we develop different tasks to collect the data. For example, common construction tasks like laying bricks, connecting pipes in a virtual environment. So based on the data we track and capture, our researchers can perform quantitative analysis of the work behaviors, and that is very important. For example, researchers can quantitatively analyze, let's say if there is a distraction, such as an object falling on the construction site, how would the user react to that? For example, we can track how fast the user can notice the danger and how fast can they avoid the danger, right? And perhaps at the beginning, we should track actually how likely the person will notice the danger. That's the first place, right? So we can quantitatively analyze all of that, and that would be very useful finding for researchers to understand more about the work behaviors of people with and without ADHD background.
When you look in analyzing the data and you're looking at the kind of the accidents that happen, slips, trips, falls, analyzing all that data for ADHD, are you able to analyze what is repetitive or what are things that you might be able to say by looking at this, we can actually analyze the data to reduce that in a way that says we're able to track all the information from all the data that you're gathering?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we will conduct a user study that involve lots of people with and without the ADHD background. And that is actually conducted by our collaborators at Purdue site. So we have the data from many different people. And also, for each person participating in our study, we are not just going to show one simple case, right? So we will show a series of scenarios. And from that, we can analyze the data to see if the user with a certain background repetitively show certain type of reactions or responses to the stimuli, right? So that way we can have a more concrete evidence that, okay, if there's a difference, then this is like a repetitive pattern that we can observe.
Lu Chen, this is kind of interesting. Can you walk us through, because now when we think about these repetitive kind of acts, can you walk us through the VR simulation in general? Because it sounds like this is really exciting on where we're headed versus where we've been so far.
Oh, yes. We devised and implemented a very realistic VR simulation program on construction sites. Two players collaborate remotely to complete construction tasks in a simulated VR environment. Each player can see the other's movements and operations as if they were in the same location. Additionally, we simulated various incidents involving construction vehicles, including cranes, trucks, excavators, and forklifts. These vehicles move around the construction site, and their movements and animations are synchronized.
When they're moving and you talk about the synchronization, are you finding that anybody can do it? That you have to make sure that they're feeling comfortable about wearing it and the whole idea of using it?
Yes, each player can see each other's movement. Also, they have the same view of the environment vehicles.
Brenda, can you talk a little bit more? I know Laura had some thoughts a little bit on this, the value. Laura, did you have some thoughts you wanted to ask?
Yeah,
There?
so we've talked a little bit about safety and how this can help make a job site a little bit safer. But what ultimately, Brenda, do you think is the value this brings, and how will it bring that value to the construction industry?
When you consider that approximately 4.2% of workers are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, we are really dealing with here a neurodiverse population working with non-neurodiverse, but I would argue that training like this could benefit all. What we're trying to do with all of these metrics ultimately is what I call unpack the dance between construction workers and machines and autonomous agents, and really understand where their attention goes, what types of tasks, and to learn about how they communicate together and unpack all of those really nuances of activity, behavior, attention, motion, communication. And by unpacking that complicated dance, we then can figure out better how to target different training mechanisms in order to enhance their situation awareness, enhance their learning and their training, and enhance their safety ultimately.
So what you're saying is, because 4.2% are diagnosed with ADHD, but we know that probably more than that have ADHD and are undiagnosed. So you're saying that this could theoretically benefit everyone in an organization, not just those who have a diagnosis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe it's like that saying, a rising tide floats all boats. The more we understand about where our attention goes for all of us, the more we understand how we interact together. And most importantly in this project, how we may interact with AI-enabled machine and autonomous agents. It's an unknown right now. Trust comes into play, communication comes into play, where human in the loop comes into play. And so there are many nuances here. And this type of data, the metrics that Craig and Lushwana and the team are able to collect and optimize, really, we've never been able to do before in a learning and training environment. So the enhanced analytics will teach us a lot, not just about the neurodiverse construction worker, but also how he or she might interact and how construction communication happens, how situational awareness and the mental models that these construction workers come into play with and how they interact together, where their attention goes. Then we can also personalize the learning environment once we understand better how things are happening. It's a very exciting project from a learning science point of view.
The other thing that comes to mind, I think, as I hear you talk now, and Yuchen, I'd love to hear you talk about it maybe, is specifically helping lower costs, because I think risks, you just said that, Brenda, when I heard you talk, I'm thinking bigger that construction companies have to see. Now they're seeing the opportunity where we always talk about they can't save money. There's a lot of opportunities here for them in the bigger picture, and they've got to step up to understand what the opportunities are here. Would you say, Yuchen, what's next?
Setting up a real-world environment for experiments could be expensive and time-consuming. Conducting experiments in virtual reality is relatively low-cost, scalable, and effective. On the other hand, since VR experiments are usually conducted in a controlled environment, they can lower risks compared to conducting experiments real-world, especially on a construction site.
When you do that overall, are there any numbers that we can put to that right now? I know that you're looking at all the data. Are you seeing real hardcore numbers, or it's just at this point you're just saying we know that there's going to be some reductions?
Yes, we know that. We don't have got any data at this point.
When we look at the worker shortage, and I know Laura mentioned this a little bit, in construction, we need to do more to help them. And I think the problem that we have in construction today is it's an ongoing problem. This isn't something that's just happened today. It's been going on for decades. What are we going to do? And maybe both you and Craig can answer this, but the question is, what can we do and how are we going to use this to maybe help this industry? Because the industry is not helping itself. I'm sorry. They just seem to be struggling with the ongoing problem. Laura and I have been writing about this for decades, and we just don't understand why this is an industry that just doesn't do better, but it can do better.
Yes, I agree. There's a lack of skilled labor. There's a lack of those going into the construction industry. There are the safety risks. There's also, on the other side, a higher rate of unemployment for workers with ADHD. The ADHD and ADD population, there's an extremely high unemployment rate. You have a pool of very talented people who have really interesting strengths that could bring to bear and widen the employment pool for the construction industry, or you have workers who are already in the industry and being able to enhance their safety and their learning and let them be able to rise through the ranks in the industry itself. There's another opportunity for the neurodiverse population in employment and in job skills. So I'm an advocate. I have 2 children who are neurodiverse, and I'm an advocate for neurodiverse hiring by all types of corporations and industries because they have an extremely high unemployment rate. So I think those 2 factors of really raising the skill level, being able to provide innovative training environments and opportunities, particularly for this population, but also for non-neurodiverse, to really emphasize how the best way to work together on construction sites and avoid accidents. So I think there's a need across the board. If we could enhance training, perhaps we could enhance the job pool for this important work. And going into the future, how the construction site will change and will be different with some of the AI capabilities.
Yeah. In addition, I think the virtual reality simulations, they are really fun to not just watch, but also to try. And that would really appeal to the next generation of potential people who want to work in the construction industry, right? If we have these kind of virtual reality construction simulation, that is realistic. People can just put on the VR headset and then try things out, right? They can try how to lay brakes. They can see how their work process will turn into some really amazing structures that they know exist in the world, but they never know how that is being constructed, right? So that would be really appealing, I think, especially for people who have no idea about how construction works, who have never get any exposure to the industry, to just learn more about the industry. So virtual reality is a perfect vehicle for doing. And one thing I want to add is that in the simulation that we construct, we also put some futuristic vehicles or robots, right, that would collaborate with workers in the construction sites of the future. And that is really interesting to explore because people really want to see how in the future they would collaborate, not just with real people, but also with AI and robots and emerging technologies to build things. I think that's really attract a lot of people to explore this area.
Craig, I'm curious, how and where is this VR simulation being used right now? What does adoption look like?
Yeah, so we are still really early in the process. So we are at the development stage right now. So we created the simulations and we send the simulations over to our Purdue collaborator side so that they can use this for some initial user study to capture the data, to analyze the data. I think at this moment, we are not talking about deployment yet to real sites because this is really something brand new and it just gets developed at our lab and we are really using it mostly for experiment purpose at this stage.
Brenda, I like what you were saying, and I'm listening to Craig talk right now, and what excites me most is I see the future. I see the future for what we can do with neurodiverse. I see the future for ADHD, but I see what Craig was saying. We're using cutting edge technology. We're thinking outside the box, and construction, and Laura and I talk about this all the time, and our frustration is we don't see construction for what it can be. Not only that it's an interesting industry and we can get more women into it, but we can get the neurodiverse industry and we can get people who are unemployed employed in a safe way because there's so many deaths. Not only just, and think about the depression that occurs. There's so much here. Do you see if we start thinking this way, we can do better? And I think that's what you're saying is that we can open up populations and we can do better overall as an industry. And that's what I'm hearing all four of you talk about this in a way that's really exciting. But the problem is we've been stuck in a box when we think about construction, a 4x4 box, building a house or whatever we're building. And is this the exciting part of what you're doing now with VR or whatever the technology is? You're saying, think about the community of people that can do something better with this.
Yes, and I really think there is so much potential with virtual reality, extended reality, being able to think about the blending of the virtual world and the physical world, which is what we're actually doing when the two workers are in the labs and they are collaborating together over the internet, but in real time. And all of their motions and communications and behaviors are all being unpacked and thought about through a learning and situation lens. So if you combine that with AI capabilities and Craig and his team's optimization of really understanding what these types of behaviors, what's repetitive, what's not, where attention goes, where it doesn't, what's happening in the scene, cranes are falling and drones are coming down and they come too close. There are all these simulated environments, which ultimately we hope that what is learned in there could be transferred to the real job site, to the construction job site. Not only will we understand more about neurodiverse and non-neurodiverse workers' attention span, how they're doing the task, when they're getting overloaded. We have certain scenarios that are actually structured for information and overload and accidents happening. And what do they do? How do they react? And how do they collaborate? How do they communicate? And we're actually interviewing construction safety managers right now to understand the boots on the ground view so that we can then think about what they actually do, how they actually think about how they train their workers and how they prepare their workers to avoid hazards. So there are many different layers to this that I think will ultimately enhance with the large language models that we have and computer vision on deck right now. It was just announced by OpenAI the other day, and natural language processing. We're able to process information in training environments in a way we've never been able to do and faster than we've ever been able to do, not to mention pulling all that data together and integrating it to better understand, to then better support the neurodiverse worker. So I think it's an exciting time, and I'll be very interested to see how these workers actually react to the environment. I think we will learn a lot on many different levels.
Craig, do you think what's next is your ability now in simulation, whether it's AR, VR, whatever's coming next, you will be able to do more things in both the physical and digital world, combining those or being able to leverage those to be able to show new workers something they didn't imagine, that they can experience things now that'll take them things that they didn't know that they might be able to do that they didn't before, like what we're describing here?
Yeah, definitely. So I think combining the state-of-the-art AI techniques to drive virtual reality program, right, to first better understand human performances, and second, to personalize the training experiences according to the specific skills and backgrounds of the trainees would be very exciting. And we are at this stage that there are really breakthrough advances in AI and also advances in emerging technologies like VR, AR. And now the question comes down to how you can integrate all these new technologies to provide personalized training. And that is effective for helping people with different backgrounds. So this is really exciting. Of course, there are many ways that machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing, like Brandon mentioned, that can be applied to create such next generation training programs. And actually, this is one of our lab, the Design Computing Extended Reality Lab at George Mason, is pushing on. And we really hope to see a series of inventions along this line.
How far away are we from seeing the product being able to be used in job sites for what we're talking about right now?
I think our collaborators on civil engineering could tell better answers because they are familiar with the civil engineering folk. But what I expect is that from the research side, we need to demonstrate that these kind of programs with AI integrated would really lead to improvement in training, right? So we need to scientifically show that. And we need to have demo showcases that convince the construction industry that this is really working, right? If they see that this is working and there's scientific support, I think it's just a matter of time and effort for them to adopt this into their business and also to scale this up. Once we can get the scientific evidence that this is really working, I don't think there is a major obstacle how they can deploy it for real training, perhaps at a small scale at the beginning, but then they can scale up the effort if things are working smoothly.
So would you say, Lu Chen, that AI helped you scale faster, your ability to adopt AI into what you were doing? And now, Craig, your ability to see it and say, now we can get other organizations able to see we're able to bring this to market sooner than we ever imagined. Would you agree with that, Craig?
Yeah, I agree with that. The AI is really powerful, right? If you have the natural language processing, we can develop virtual reality programs that will be able to talk to humans, right? Communicate with humans. And that would help really scale up the use of virtual reality programs for providing a training, right? Because basically they can do what a real coach can do, right? When more and more closely, right? So if you have the new technologies integrated, we can scale up the efforts more effectively.
Is there any final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with, Brenda?
I'd just like to mention our team at Purdue, the PI of this project, Behzad Esmaili, and his very highly capable doctoral student, Qingyu Chen, are really doing the heavy lifting on bringing a lot of this together. And we also have an economist on the project whose work will come later to think about these issues that you're talking about, dissemination and spread of these ideas, as well as the technology, and an ADHD psychologist expert, Sarah Karalunas, on the project. So it's really a multi-university, multi-team project, and everyone brings their expertise to bear. And it's really been exciting to see the development of not only the virtual environments and the extended reality environments, but really the nuances that are possible here. We're going to learn a lot about how these environments work in a training environment. We're going to learn a lot about the ADHD neurodiverse collaboration with construction safety managers. We're going to learn a lot about learning and training and what these emerging technologies can tell us. And we're going to learn a lot about human-machine partnerships, which is really needed. This technology is coming rapidly, and research is not caught up yet with really the capabilities and how the humans and machines will work together on future construction environments. I think there are so many important aspects to this project.
I think that's powerful. Brenda Bannon, professor at Division of Learning Technologies, College of Education and Human Development. Luchan Yu, third-year computer science, PhD student at George Mason University. And Craig Yu, associate professor, computer science, College of Engineering, George Mason University. Where can we get more information on what we just talked about?
Yes. So if you are interested in our research projects, feel free to Google our names and you will find our university web pages, and we keep update our university web pages to show the latest progress. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. And Laura Black, as always, thank you for joining in our conversation today. We enjoyed this. This was very educational, and we believe what you're saying. We need to increase the involvement of everyone that can be in construction. I think this is a very exciting project. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Okay, listeners, that's all the time we have for this segment. Make sure to share and subscribe to our episodes each week. Share your thoughts with me on X at Connected World, or follow me on LinkedIn to continue the conversation there. Please check out our website at connectedworld.com, or show website at thepeggysmedleyshow.com. This is the Peggy Smedley Show, your voice for our connected world. And remember, with great technology comes great responsibility.